Welcome to another video. Today we are going to build a database and import a file into the database. We're going to do this in batch. So it should be a fun project. So the file that I want to download and import into my database is this file here, which is a mapping of ports and numbers. And I got this from IANA.org, which is an organization in charge of managing internet addresses and protocols. So let's get started. For this I need an editor, and I need also the Linux batch. So this is what I'm going to test my command. So I'm going to start by entering the shebang, so followed by bin batch, which is the path to the batch interpreter, and next I'm going to outline the steps that I need to take in order to do this. So the first step is to download the file. The second step will be to create a database and create tables, and the third step will be to import file into database. So those are my three basics, the core steps that I need to take in order to fulfill the goal of what I want to do. So I'm going to create now a few variables. So the first one, I'm going to call it IANA ports URL, and going to open quotation, and I'm going to assign this file, which is, they have different formats, and I'm going to assign this file, which is a CSV formatted file and contain this information here. So I'm going to right click on it and copy link address, paste it and close quotation. Next, I'm going to create a port file variable. Next, I'm going to get a variable called wget, and I'm going to use command substitution to assign the path wget. So if I do which wget, it gives me the path wget. So I'm going to say which wget. Next, I'm going to create a variable called dvname, and I'm going to call my database ports dv. Next, I'm going to create a table called ports table, and for port tables I'm going to call ports, and I need a dv user, which is going to be the user that I'm going to use for creating the database and table. MySQL admin is my dv user. So those are my variables. Now I'm going to create the database. So I'm going to create a function called download. Actually, this should be here. And that's the first thing I need to do now, is to download the file. So I'm going to create a function called download files, and we'll say echo downloading files. So I know I'm inside this function. Now I'm going to use the port file variable, and with command substitution now I want to be able to download this file here. So I'm going to test it on my bash application. So I'm going to say wget Ctrl Shift V and press enter, and it should download that file. There we go. Now that you can do ls-l and see the file downloaded. I have downloaded it several times. So I'm going to do CSV 1, 2. Okay. So we know the command works, so I'm going to use wget the variable. So we don't want to hard code commands inside our code. We want to use variables. We're going to say wget followed by IANA ports URL, the variable, and then I'm going to throw both output and error to device pool. And because I want to get the name of the file and assign it to this variable, now I'm going to do ls-1 anything.csv, and that's going to list the file and assign it to this. So this is command substitution. You can copy and paste the command and execute it in your terminal every time you are in doubt whether or not it is going to work. So next, I am going to parse the file, because if I do cat service, notice to cut the file, I see that the first row contains doesn't contain any data. So the first row of data is actually the second row. So I want to be able to parse that out of the file. And I'm going to say cut port file, and I'm going to use set 1D. That is going to take out the first line. Always remember, if you want to test whether the command is going to work, you use it in the terminal. Set 1D less. And notice now that the first row is not there anymore. Another thing that I want to do is to eliminate some of the extra columns that I have. For example, the first column is the protocol name. The second column is the port number. The third column is the transfer protocol being used, and the fourth column is the service running on that port. After that, there's just extra information that I don't need. In total, we have 12 columns, so I'm going to get the first 4. And so I'm going to use the cut command, and -d for delimiter. Delimiter is the comma, and next the fields that I want are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, when in doubt, you can run this in the terminal. And we say cut delimiter comma field 1, 2, 3, and 4. Press enter, and now I have the four column that I need. Notice that some rows are missing some information, and that's because there is no protocol assigned to that particular port. So keep that in mind if you're following along this video. So that command works. Next, I need to, because the file is pretty long, it's a long file. If I do word count L to count the lines, it is 14,992 lines. So because it contains TCP and UDP ports, and so for this tutorial, I'm going to use only TCP ports. So now I'm going to use grep to grep only for TCP ports. Again, always test it out in your in your terminal. And notice now that I only have TCP ports now. So if I do word count lines, I have half the lines now. So I'm passing for TCP, and another thing that I want to do is to, whenever some line or row starts with a comma, I want to be able to put a null value in front of it. So I'm going to use set for that, and I'm going to say, see if I can bring the, okay. Anything, I want to use regular expressions. So anything that starts, any line that starts with a comma, I want to be able to substitute that for no comma. And I'm going to redirect everything to a file called temp.csv. And then I'm going to, the next step is to move that temp CSV into my original file, which is port.file. And by now we should be able to have that file completely parsed, and only we want the information that we want. So that should be the first function, the first step that we want to do. The second step is to create a database and table. So I'm going to create another function. Call this one setup database. And again, I'm going to create an echo here setting database. So I know I'm inside this function. And I need to prompt for some information here. I need to prompt the user for the MySQL admin password, because that's what I'm going to use to set up the database. So I'm going to say enter MySQL admin password. Now I'm going to say read admin password. And finally, we are going to execute the command. So we're going to say sudo MySQL. I forgot to mention at the beginning that you need MySQL installed in your computer. So now I'm going to use the root, the username that I want to use as credential, which is this one, db user, followed by the password, which is admin pass. And now I'm going to use a here document. A here document is nothing more than a regular text file that is going to be redirected into another command. That this command is going to take as input the here document, and the here document also always begins with these less than signs, and followed by a tag that notifies the beginning of the here document. I'm going to call this one MySQL, and next I'm going to enter some MySQL statement. So I'm going to say create in database db name. That's going to be the name of the database. Every single MySQL statement needs to be ended with a semicolon. Database scripting is very picky about these things, so use db name. So we are going to switch into that database that we created, and then we are going to create the ports table. So I'm going to say create table ports table, and for my table I need 4 columns, and the first one is going to be ID, which is type int, not null, so I need some value in this column, and I'm going to set it to auto increment, so it increments automatically. The second column is going to be service, and this is going to be chart, and I'm going to assign 50 characters as maximum. The third column is going to be number. This one is going to be bar chart, also 50 characters. The next one is going to be port. This one I'm going to do chart, only 10 characters. And finally, description. This one bar chart, 255. And finally, notice that every single column is separated by a comma. And finally, primary key. It's ID. Okay, so that is going to be ended with a comma, with a semicolon, and then I'm going to end the here document here, and I'm going to say MySQL, and finally I'm going to end the function. So that is going to set up my database and table. For the sake of this project, I'm just going as fast as I can, but remember, every time that if you really want to this and test it as you go, not just type things for the sake of typing and hoping that it's going to work at the end, you can always go back to the batch and type any command that you want. This is why batch scripting is so so flexible, is that you can type anything. For example, if you want to test this command, you can go into batch and type sudo MySQL and go into MySQL and try to create the database and create a table beforehand you put things into your shell script. Okay, notice that I'm in MySQL, but I'm going to keep going. So the third step is to import files into database. So I'm going to call this one function import ports, and I'm going to say echo import 14 into import into table. And now I'm going to say echo. It's not echo, it is cat. I want to use the cat command, and I want to use these. I want to cat the file, which is port file, which we assigned the name of the file that we downloaded. So I'm going to say cat port file, and I'm going to pipe this into a while loop. And I'm going to use if as the limiter, which is the comma, and then to read the 4 columns that I want. So I'm going to say column 1, column 2, column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. Then I'm going to say do, and now I'm going to echo the SQL statement, the MySQL statement. So I'm going to say insert into table name, or actually ports table, the values of ID, comma service, comma number. You can go by this that we created here, which is ID, service, number, port, comma description, and then values default, which is the ID. We want that to be automatically increment, so we don't have to provide it. And then we are going to say column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. We need to close this, end it with the same column, and we need to close the SQL statements to run the echo with double quotes. And here we're going to say done to end the while loop, and we're going to pipe everything into sudo MySQL. Then we need to provide the MySQL credential. Let me bring this up, which is db user and P for password, admin pass. And yeah, is it admin pass or root pass? Yes, admin pass, which I need to create the variable here, otherwise I will not be able to access it, since the first time that I created the variable is inside this function. We might be able to, but just to be safe, I'm going to say admin pass, and I'm going to close this one, and followed by db name, and we are going to close the function. And next I'm going to say will be my main section. Here I'm going to call the first method, which is this one, download files. I'm going as fast as I can. And next I'm going to call setup database. Finally, I'm going to say import ports, and at the end I'm going to say end, so to end my script. So I'm going to Ctrl S for file, save as, and then and give it a name and save it. And let's go ahead and run it. Let's do an ls -l anything.sh, and it is this file here. And as you can see, I don't have executable set to it, so I want to do that. Chmod +x create dv.sh. Okay, so now we can execute the file, and since it is the first time you run this file, you want to debug the file. So batch -x followed by the name of the file, and run it. Now it is downloading the file from the internet. That's what we see, that much output. Now it is cleaning the file. It is asking now for the MySQL password. And now it is importing data into our database. Finish with inserting data, so I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to verify that the data was created. So I'm going to say sudo MySQL, and now I'm inside MySQL. So I want to list my database. So I'm going to say show databases, and this is the database that I created, Parse DB. So I'm going to use that database. And now I'm going to say select everything from, let's see, show tables first. Okay, so we have the tables, the Parse table. So I'm going to say select everything from ports. And as you can see, we have inserted all our ports. First one is the ID. The second one is the protocol, the service running, the port number, the port, and the description of the service. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this project. I think it's kind of a fun project to do, to be able to do things from the batch and interact with different applications from within the batch. And as always, remember to subscribe, and thanks for watching.